भद्रं कर्णैभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Let us now pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, Thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss. Salutations unto Thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Let us close our eyes and try to look within. Let us feel the innermost, unchanging core of our being. While the universe that we see, including our body and the mind too, is changing all the time. In fact, it is the change that we perceive. There is this core of being, which is the unchanging witness. It is unborn, unchanging, and thus has no death. Let us feel it as a bright spark of light. As I concentrate on it, I see it is becoming more and more intense, bigger and bigger, more and more pervasive. Till its infinitely intense illumination has pervaded the whole universe. What was begun as my innermost core of being has become the being of everything. All distinctions have dissolved in it. There is no conflict. There are no desires. It is solid, luminous, bliss itself. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Om. Asatu ma sadgamaya Tamasu ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormam amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, and from this limited mortal existence to the existence immortal, unlimited. Dear friends, this topic was suggested to me by one friend because every Sunday to find some new topic, and that friend said, you never gave a talk on philosophy. And please give a talk on philosophy. And that was a challenge, to talk about philosophy. So I titled it as Philosophy, Do We Need It? That now it is not just the words, but the tonality gives this question different meanings. It is that one is philosophy. Do we need it? And the assumed answer is no, of course. It is the way you present the question, that tonality automatically gives you a supposed answer. No, we don't need it. Or philosophy, do we need it? Means only what we have to discover is how we need it. So the need is assumed there. So it is both these things, both these ways of looking at this topic, do we need it, philosophy, are very interesting. Actually, it is difficult to make a lecture on philosophy interesting. Isn't it interesting that the lecture on philosophy cannot be made interesting? But there are so many jokes, humors about philosophy that it is. One such is quoted by Swami Ranganathananda in his book on Bhagavad Gita, that one priest had invited his philosopher friend to give a lecture, a sermon to his congregation. So, and before, as the custom is, he introduced his philosopher friend. So he said, my friend is a philosopher, and what is a philosopher? The one who is trying to find a non-existent black cat in a dark room. Trying to find a non-existent black cat in a dark room. Now, naturally, the philosopher friend, he felt that his profession has been adversely commented upon. So when his speech began, he said, my priest friend told about my profession, but he didn't tell about his own profession, so let me tell you about it. A priest is someone who is trying to find a non-existent black cat in a dark room and yet claiming that he has found it. So that is the priest. So it is like that you find it and the philosophers doubt it. It is the philosophy, the word has a lot of definitions. In fact, it can be a topic in itself to give a Sunday lecture, not planning any time soon, but you can think about it, the philosophy of the definitions of philosophy. When I was consulting different dictionaries online, then there were several definitions of philosophy that it was difficult for me to choose which definition of philosophy I should take. So I took a few of them, and more or less they are in sync, although there are some significant differences between how they project this word philosophy. Different philosophers do not agree on the definition of philosophy. Actually, there it brings to my mind that originally, long back in the times of Socrates and Plato, the philosophy really meant providing definitions, because our knowledge is kind of vague and we need to get precise definition of things around. So philosophy became a branch where we define things. So definitions, everything needs to be precisely defined so that we may not agree, but at least we know what we are talking about. So, that was an idea about philosophy. Also, this word comes from the French and Latin origin, where the idea is the love of wisdom. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. It is the Sophia is the goddess of knowledge, like what we have in our Indian divine system, Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom or knowledge. In this word Sophia, what it means is that the goddess of wisdom. Therefore, some say that, and it is one opinion, that the word Sufi, the mystics, Sufis, the word Sufi came from actually this word Sof, means knowledge. Sof means knowledge. Also, soft means wool. So they were putting the garments of coarse wool. So that also was given as an origin. But one point is that it is the wisdom to live as a wise person. Naturally, there wouldn't be two opinions that should we be living as wise people or the opposite of it, otherwise people. It is wise or otherwise. So again, no-brainer, everybody would say, yes, I want to live as wise person. So that search for wisdom is a way to understand, look for philosophy, and then it is certainly needed that we want to see the meaning of things, and that is where the animals and human beings, they have a very clear, distinct separation. With animals, it is the stimulus or that response generated by the stimulus. The stimulus automatically decides the response. Like a cat, the mouse, cat sees a mouse, there is this stimulus, and then the immediate reaction would be to pounce on that poor thing. So that is, forget the pet cats don't do such things, but the cats that I had been always used to in my childhood, that they are like that. If they see a mouse, then they would pounce upon it. Later on, especially after coming to this country, the cats seem to have been spoiled because their owners, they keep on feeding them. And thus they lose what you don't use. That is the principle of evolution. What you don't use, you lose. So now they have lost that instinct of hunting mice. So it is but otherwise the animals, as left to themselves, without bringing them into your home and making them pets, then you destroy their characteristics. So they become like, to a great extent, like human beings, They get all the human diseases, including the psychic problems, That it is so many that the dogs and cats, they get the depression issues are there. So it is but otherwise the animal behavior is like that, a stimulus-response behavior, that there is a stimulus, an automatic response would be there without any thought process involved. A human being, not like that. Some For example, a food may seem quite nice, attractive, but even many children, they are very cautious. They see what it contains, does it have nuts, does it have these things, how many calories it has, and after studying, then a response comes, not just an auto response. There is in between a process of thinking. So that is where the philosophy steps in, that human beings, they have the capability of thinking and using the logical faculty which would guide the response. It is not just there is some stimulus that is provided to the sense organs and that would automatically determine the response, not auto response, but there is another process that goes on, and if that process tells that okay, go ahead or don't go ahead, yes or no, then accordingly that response is directed. Now, of course, it happens many times that human beings have a lot of part of animals. So what happens is, although the thought process tells them that no, not good for you, still the habit and then the animal desires, they go ahead and then grab it anyway. I don't know about you guys, but it happens to me very often that suppose there is a piece of cake and then, well, should I eat it? Then my thought tells me, no, it has too many calories. You are already putting on too much weight. You shouldn't eat it. You have to control your weight. Now, but I want to eat. What can be done, So I counteract by another thought. Well, a little weight, how much a piece of cake is going to add the weight to? Let me, from tomorrow I will be more cautious. Today, this is how, I will go for the cake. So, it is, human beings also have that animal nature, which keeps the thought suppressed. The philosophy is not allowed to rise. Therefore, the word philosophy has got this connotation that it doesn't have any connection with practical behavior as such. It just puts certain theories around, and then, and that too in a very complicated way. One characteristic of philosophy is whatever their statements are, they are made in such a complicated way that a person can, the head starts whirling around. What is that? Like an example, I saw that it is how the philosophization goes on. If only I could accept that I can't accept being someone who finds it hard to accept acceptance from those who accept me for the person that I can't accept I really am. Make a sense of it, It is the situation soon comes to be, becomes very hopeless for most people. There are some philosophical brains, they will do the clause analysis and then say, this could be the ultimate meaning. And again, they would say, no, there will be difference of opinions. Two philosophers, they never agree up with each other. There is, so that is This is how, a person therefore thinks, do I need it? I don't need it becomes the answer, because it has not much use. You know that story that two people were going in a balloon, and then that balloon was drifting around, and they soon lost the track as to where we are. So they brought the balloon down. They saw two people were walking on the street. So they asked these, hey, can you help us? Where are we? And then one of them thought, and after thinking said, you guys are in balloon. So he said, well, let us go, no use asking these people. And then one of them commented, that man is a philosopher. How do you know that he is a philosopher? He didn't answer immediately, he thought. Immediate answer is not philosopher's job. Wait, think, let me think. He thought. And after thinking, he gave a very accurate answer. And no doubt you know about that. Well, we are in the balloon. He didn't say a word wrong. His answer was perfectly accurate and perfectly useless. So that is how the philosopher could be, that perfectly correct answer, which is perfectly useless as well. So many think that the philosophy therefore is something that is useless. But there is this human nature to think that we cannot disregard. There is always a thought process that keeps on going to make sense of our life. Then there is another thing that human beings have, that it is the moral and ethical issue that the animals do not have. Therefore, animals are never ever immoral. They are always doing whatever is moral for them. There is no a cat when sees the mouse goes, pounces on it, kills it, eats it. There are no moral fissures in the mind of the cat that, oh well, should I practice non-violence, or should I let this mouse go, or should I become vegetarian? No such things for a cat. There are no moral issues. But human beings, there is a moral dimension, right and wrong. Something is right and something is wrong. Moreover, something is right and something is wrong. There is a difference between the opinions. Whatever they say, just to give an example, whatever Democrats feel as right, the Republicans will feel as wrong. Yeah. And both have significant numbers and significant arguments to support their conclusion. So it is one person's opinion about right and wrong need not necessarily tally with another person's opinion. So this moral thing has become a very sticky thing in philosophy. What is moral? Many philosophers have busied themselves to find out a universally acceptable moral standard. Some philosophers like Mill and Hume, they, after giving a lot of thought, both of them rejected any idea of a God or a supernatural entity, nothing like that. No, such thing doesn't exist. But we have to lead a moral life, that they agreed. It is, there should be a moral standard. Now, what should that be? And they came up with an idea which was debunked by so many others. In fact, it was rejected quite quickly by most others. Their idea was that which is conducive to the well-being of maximum well-being of the maximum people, conducive to the maximum good of the maximum people. Now, on the face of it, it seems to be, yeah, good. Whatever does good to maximum number of people, that should be considered moral. But then people started saying, first think of it, what is good for people. Who are you to decide what is good for somebody else? That person's idea of good could be very different. A person's idea of good could be just lying on the bed and keep on watching the idiot box. That's it. So it is. That could be the idea of good of someone. Someone's idea, no, provide education to everybody. Everybody must learn. Well, does that person want to learn? Should we not give the freedom of choice to that person? If I don't want to learn, I should have the freedom of not to learn. That may be good for, if you think that it is good for getting education is good, okay, you feel free to get it. Why should I bother my head about it? It may be good for you. My idea of good doesn't tally. Swami Vivekananda has chided this idea of the maximum good of the maximum people. So many Indian these commentators, they have shown the fallacy in that maximum good of the maximum people. What standard it is that some child would say to get a particular sweetmeat, that is the good of the world. Why you guys are breaking your heads about what is good for and well-being of everybody? Just provide lot of chocolates, and then there is a peace in the world. That is all that is needed to make good for the world. Lots of chocolates for me to eat, that famous song. Well, that is the idea of happiness for most people. I will have a conflict with that. I would replace chocolate with chilies. Give chilies, hot chili peppers to everyone, and thus the world will be full of peace, and lot of that good can be done through that. It is a try again. When it comes, all people would say try, because such thing is impossible. So right in the bud the question is eliminated. Give chilies to everybody, and they may not even accept. Give chocolate to everybody, they may not accept. They don't like it. It is all therefore well-being, of maximum well-being of maximum number of people. It is this idea didn't last too long. How to decide it? And again, as the times change, the idea of what is necessary keeps changing. What is conducive to well-being? I was surprised to see that nowadays in most countries in the world, the food and clothing, shelter, during my times of growing, they were the fundamental necessities. That it is, everybody has to have food, everybody has to have clothing, everybody has to have a shelter. Now everybody has to have access to internet. Without that, it is not well-being. So, is it good or not? Well, is there a very high-speed broadband internet available? Then it is good. Earlier, people who would come here as guests, they would just see, oh yeah, this room is nice. They were satisfied if there is good food, there is the clean sheets and room and all. Wow, wonderful, excellent. Now they don't care much about it. They first ask, please give me the Wi-Fi password. Now what is the well-being? It becomes completely changed. So what is to be decided as well-being for everyone? Therefore this idea doesn't work. And yet, you cannot stop human beings from thinking. You think, and thus wisely you decide something, come to a decision on action. So there is a philosophy called logical positivism. Means, according to them, philosophy is different from mathematics. A.J. Ayer, a British philosopher, whose books are very well known, so he mentions, he has written actually extensively on the philosopher-mathematicien of his times, Bertrand Russell. So about him he has written extensively, and he points out the distinction between the logic or mathematics and philosophy. Logic, he says, is or mathematics has no use as such. In fact, to quote from a very well-known mathematician, I love his book, that A Mathematician's Apology by Hardy, G.H. Hardy. He was actually the one who brought Ramanujam on the world stage. So it is this Hardy's book, A Mathematician's Apology, says, and I am quoting, that it is asserting his belief that in the mere act of writing about mathematics, he has lowered himself to the level below that of a pure mathematician. He goes to state repeatedly in that book that if the mathematics is useful, then it is a substandard mathematics. It should not have any use as such. It is just the pure joy with mathematics, that's it. To put it, to think about using it here, there, that is the substandard or lower grade mathematics. Because it is the mathematics is you take some of the axioms, some truths which you believe only the needed thing about that is those basic truths, they should not be conflicting with each other. If they are not, and if one of them cannot be proved by the remaining ones, then that becomes a good set of axioms to build a superstructure of mathematics. Whether those axioms are factually true or not is not mathematicians' concern. Professor A.J. Ayer says that no, philosophy has to have the connection with the practical life of people. It should be guiding people to act in a particular wise way. So it is not just purely only logical construct, but it has to have that factual connection. If they help you to factually connect, synchronize, and harmoniously place various facts, then that philosophy is serving its purpose. He shows that logically it is impossible to put the responsibility of or blame of any action on any person. He gives the example that purely logically, if you go, it is impossible if somebody just uses the gun and shoots somebody, kills somebody. Now, who is responsible? Well, this man, he killed him. He is to be, punished according to the law. But a logician would step in and say, no, without having the gun, how could he shoot that person? So the maker of the gun should be held responsible. Then somebody would say, well, the maker of the gun, but the one who invented this gunpowder originally, that person should be held responsible, and so forth. There is no end to it at all. So, but factually, this is logically, it is all right. It is pure logic will not be able to stamp this responsibility of an action on anyone. But practically we have to say that this is the person who is the killer, and then has to be brought to the law. So this is how the philosophy has a practical dimension to it. And even in our, as we began this discussion, philosophy arises from our practical experience to make sense of that experience, to make it harmoniously fitting into everything else that we are experiencing. That is where the human beings, as I mentioned, differ tremendously from the animal world. That it is a human being would see that, okay, when I did this yesterday, what happened? That knowledge will be brought forth. Then what impact a particular action will have on other things, that will be also looked into. A human being wants a harmoniously, fitting answer. So it is, and the philosophy is trying to do that. So philosophy from that angle, not only it is needed, human beings cannot be without it. It is the question whether it is needed or not, therefore is a redundant question. It is like, is the nose needed? Well, it is there, whether it is needed or not. As a human, you have nose. It is. So the practicality of it is important. That it is. They say that a nice story about President Lincoln. his this anatomical features as obvious that they were not in perfect shape as such. In fact, it was said that his legs were too long compared to the common person's naturally acceptable the length of the legs. So he had rather too long legs. So somebody, just to poke fun at him, asked that, "Hey, Mr. Lincoln, according to you, what should be the proper right length of the legs of human being?" A loaded question. But Lincoln was not, again, as a very brilliant person, he threw it back to the questioner. "Well, according to me, that length should be enough from the hips down to the ground." So, that much length should be enough. So, now that is how the practicality comes there, that our answers should be practically satisfiable. The philosophy has to have this component. And also, philosophy considers, and this is a special thing, again, as I mentioned, of a harmonious understanding. We live life, and as I mentioned, we have a lot of this part of our living as like animals, similar to animals. But human beings, they start thinking about the goal of life. What ultimately am I going to get by this? That is why it is a very commonly used phrase. At the end of the day, what shall I get from it? End of the day means not this day, means at the end of life. What am I going to get from all this? What I am doing now should be connected to that. And that is where the philosophy becomes tremendously meaningful. That it is that what shall become of it? It is to make sense of all what I want in life and put it together, because I look back and see what I liked yesterday, today I don't like. It is like our Harrison sitting there. I knew him when he was a little child of, say, how much, 2 years old or something. So it is what he used to like then is not surely what he likes today. So what happens, the activity he did to get what he liked then now has no meaning. It was the activity, the efforts, whatever. Now that effort has no meaning. The only thing is that he learned from that this is not really what I want. It is. Now, that time I was not thinking right. After all, I was a small child. But now I think right, and I see that this is what I want. Wait a minute. That is how the likings keep on shifting and changing. Tomorrow the liking will be different. In the morning you like something, in the afternoon you like something else. In the early morning many cannot even think without having a cup of coffee. You think, I have to have coffee. But later on you say, no, I am good, I don't want any more coffee. Because the likings, they keep on shifting, changing. Our wants keep on shifting, changing. So what ultimately I am going to get from this? When this question becomes very prominent in somebody's life, that person now can really use philosophy. That ultimately, what am I seeking from this life? The observation is there, a very scientific process. There is the observation, the conclusion, there is the storehouse of all that. And thus you ponder over it, that what I liked at one time, now I don't like. And thus, liking cannot be the standard of my actions. You get to this conclusion, then what should guide my actions? And what should guide my the moral issues? Because as I mentioned, that is what human beings have. Many psychologists and philosophers, they have therefore that these moral issues, they cause a lot of psychological problems. You get weighted down by those. You keep on getting the guilt feeling that you 17 years ago you did this, that was morally not right. So because the idea of morality is changed, 17 years ago that thought was probably not there, but then read some book or told by somebody, or the new world has emerged for that person, and now thinks that, oh, it was not morally right. So 17 years ago what I did was wrong. And then that sits on the mind as the feeling of guilt. And then therefore it is difficult to get rid of that feeling. So some philosophers have decided that suggested tone down those ideas of morality. Some more aggressive ones have said this baggage of moral things should be just thrown away. It is thus you will be happy all the time. This baggage of things, whether I did was morally right or not morally right, it will keep on weighing you down. But then this again, human beings, even if you are told that, hey Charlie, don't think about the morality of any action, is helpless, has to think, especially when somebody else does something hurtful to you, then that was morally not a good thing to do. So it is, you are forced as human being to have this right or wrong. Again, Vedanta brings that this is a characteristic feature of being human, the sense of right and wrong. Animals, they have no such sense, right or wrong. Whatever is instinctively they are doing, that is automatically right for them. And then it is, if they are not allowed to do, that's right, wrong for them. Right and wrong is just determined only up to this point. But human beings, they want to do what is right. And then question comes, what is right? And right, when it is philosophically analyzed, means giving it a deep thought, that it is something that is conducive to my ultimate good, that which will make me get the ultimate goal of my life. And Vedanta shows in a very logical steps that we all are seeking the ultimate infinite happiness. We don't want to, put a limit on our happiness. How much happiness do you want? Well, infinite it is. I want to be happy all the time, infinitely happy. Yeah. Then how much existence you want? Well, I want to be all the time. It is an absolute being that I want. I want absolute knowledge too. And that is what Vedanta says is God. These three things, they are actually the aspects, three aspects of the same one thing, and that is called God. Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. That is God. And thus, to strive for it is the most moral and the important act in life, that I must strive to that goal, because my observations and anybody's observation, the problem is that most human beings, they do not pay enough attention to it. Once they pay attention to it, this is very easily deducible. So, that is what I want in life. And so, whatever takes me towards that goal, that is right. Whatever takes me away from that goal, that is wrong. And therefore, Swami Vivekananda mentions, it is because of this, love is right, hate is wrong. It is. He gives many such examples that thus that is where the philosophy becomes the help to make our life grow in the right direction, in a harmonious way. It is an inclusive thing, not that just the piecemeal philosophy, like educational philosophy, the philosophy of this, that it is, and so many such things, that philosophy of this, philosophy of that, philosophy of that. No, this is the all-embracing philosophical thought that I must experience this infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. That is what I really am. Otherwise, well, I am just thinking of what I am not. It is, yes, it is. There is a nice joke there I saw in Google today, that yesterday I discovered that I am a cartoon character. I was up all night trying to decide whether I am the lines on the cartoon or the space between those lines. I am a cartoon character, but what? So it is, although it is a joke, that is what our understanding about what we are. Just take it seriously. That it is, I have to find out what I really am. And just a few steps will bring us to this understanding. I mean, this logical conclusion that I am everywhere. I was never born. I will never die. There is no change in me. I am that I am. That is the biblical statement, That is how you cannot say this is God. This is, you cannot limit it. I am, that I am. All of us can say that I am, that I am. And thus, philosophy brings us to this conclusion. But that is not enough. then we must go beyond philosophy. And therefore it is said that religion begins where philosophy ends. Philosophy gave you that this is the ultimate goal. Now religion tells you how to achieve it. So it brings me to that same joke again, that the philosopher is trying to find out the non-existent black cat in dark room. But a priest, a practitioner of religion finds it out. It is not a non-existent cat. It is all-pervading cat. And when you have the proper eyesight, you will discover it. So it culminates into experience. Yesterday I was talking to somebody that it is this search for the truth is a search for an existing object. This is a quote from the great philosopher and the person of tremendous spiritual wisdom, Shankaracharya, who says that the search for God will result in finding it because God is. As the search for that which exists culminates in its experience. All other things that we are looking for, search for them will culminate in frustration because they are just shadows, they are illusions. They don't exist, they appear but they don't exist. So search for illusions will lead in frustrations. Search for that which is and leads to its experience, and the life will become totally fulfilled, that nothing is required. I am bliss itself. I am existence itself. I am knowledge itself. This is truth, friends, can be experienced by everyone by making our understanding change and guide our experience in that direction. So, this is the way philosophy can be very practically useful in our life. And so, do we need it? Yes, we do need it. But that philosophy we don't need, which has no relation to our practical life. It is just wasting our energies in going round and round in cyclic way. So it is needed, it is not needed. Depends on how you look at it. Thank you, friends. Just think about these ideas for half a minute, and then if you have any questions or comments, please come up with that. Any question? No question. Yes, John?
Yeah, you said that religion is how to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
You've got multiple religions telling you different ways to achieve that goal. So, how do you discern which is the right way to achieve that goal?
Hey, very good question. Our John always has very thoughtful question and comment. Thank you. That it is this first statement, of course, nobody has problem, that religion is the way to achieve what philosophy tells you is worth achieving. But then there are several religions. Which one do you think will be suitable for you? The answer is kind of twofold. Firstly, what is available for you right now. That is, you should adopt that. Like water is available at many places, good water, but what do you go to drink? What is at hand, close at hand. So you take that. That is one way of looking at it. Secondly, other way is constitutional suitability. Actually, all religions, different great religions, they present more or less similar paths. Swami Vivekananda has kind of classified them together as the yoga. Yoga means they practically changing our life to get to that ideal. That is called yoga. And Shankaracharya says, Tat Prapti Upaya, that to get it, you determine that this is to be gotten. Now, direct the efforts to get it. Philosophy told you this is to be gotten. Now, yoga is the way to get it. But which yoga? So he says those who have the intellectual bent of mind, they see what is permanent and what is impermanent, and then reject that which is impermanent and go to that which is permanent. They discern what is right, what is not right, reject that which is not right and go to that which is right. So this is the path of knowledge. He calls Jnana Yoga, yoga of knowledge. Then there is the path of devotion, because for almost all of us, although we can discern things, our actual life is not guided by intellect. We are too emotional. In fact, it is not right to call ourselves intellectuals. There is one or two amongst billions, among 7.3 or 4 billions, maybe there could be 5 people, and maybe that is exaggeration, who are really intellectuals. Means like Buddha, that Buddha saw that this is all leading to suffering, and just the mind stopped going towards that. Not that we don't understand what Buddha is telling, but our mind still gets dragged in the opposite direction. So now there has to be a way that is called the yoga of love. Love that God. Instead of wasting your love to this thing and that thing, that which goes away. Now, so you pour all love on something that is evanescent. Then that love gets wasted because the thing is gone. So love that which is permanent, which is real. That is God. Direct all love to God. That is called the yoga of devotion, bhakti yoga. Then there is the yoga of activity. That is, do works without getting caught in the work, in an unattached way. Do it as your duty without seeking any results out of it. And thus that kind of work will gradually liberate you. So that is called yoga of action. And then there is the yoga of meditation, that you think and concentrate, the yoga of concentration and control. The concentration builds the power, and thus the knowledge comes through concentration. So that is called the kingly yoga or Raj yoga. So all religions can be put into that. If you are, say, religion of love, if you want to make that object of love as Jesus Christ, it becomes Christianity. If you want to make that as the object of love as the one of the Kabbalists, then it becomes Judaism. If you make that as the love of Krishna or Ramakrishna, it becomes Hinduism. So all these are different religions, but they actually have similar practice, different names, that's all. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Sharada?
So, I'd like to pose the biotheistic approach to what you were saying about humans not following instinct, that we think as opposed to following instinct.
Yeah.
The biotheistic perspective of that would be that spirituality is actually the human instinct, and that these thoughts are only, we'd say, the devices to necessitate the fulfillment of that instinct. So just as a cat, for example, may do certain behaviors if it's trained in order to achieve the instinct, which might be the mouse, if the mouse is inside some type of device that they have to figure out how to get out. Similarly, our thinking process is just to necessitate our biological instinct to realize God.
That is a very good way of putting it. And I agree with it, that it is built in human nature, biologically built in human nature to do this search for God. It is instinctive in human beings to think. Human beings are hardwired to think. They cannot stop doing it. Human beings are hardwired to become religious. Howsoever you may keep on shouting about atheism, almost 99% human beings, they have faith in some kind of God. Even the atheists, gradually they become, more theists. They have atheist church. Can you imagine? There are atheist churches. Atheist priests. So it has become a religion, you see. So it is like, you are very correct, that it is biotheistic, that if you are a human being biologically, you have the God instinct in you. That is why it is told that we say that religion is the manifestation of divinity already in us. It is biotheistically, it is our part, our aspect. And we have to strive to realize it by our instinct. There is no option otherwise. Yeah, good. So, you have a question, Abhijit?
Yeah, my question is kind of flip of what John had asked.
Uh-huh.
Meaning, if you have, you're happy with your spiritual practice, like, okay, I have a spiritual practice. Now, do I need to think over, what's my nature, what's the nature of the world, what's the nature of God? Philosophizing, is it necessary?
Yes. Is it necessary to philosophize it? It is necessary to begin with, to see that it is right for you. If it is what you say, it is satisfying me, it could be dangerous. That it is satisfying me doesn't mean that it is right. If you have to see whether you are going in the right direction. If you are, say, following somebody who is an ideal personage, then it is right. You don't have to. Once you determine that by thinking, now you can let go of the thinking. Now thinking is not necessary. But if you have not gotten into that, then thinking is necessary. The philosophizing is necessary till then. Then you can let go. In determining the goal and the means, philosophy is necessary. In practicing, it is not necessary. Once you determine the goal and the means, now just go on that. Do not worry about philosophy anymore. That is why I made this, I actually quoted that statement, that religion begins where philosophy ends. Yeah. So, oh yes, Bianca?
I was just going to say, I was reminded of, in Buddhism, often it is said to be a philosophy, a point of view, an examination of the mind, and not necessarily Buddha, a teacher, not necessarily a manifestation of the divine. It's often practiced as a manifestation of the divine and a tantric level, a dharmic, as you go towards realization. But it's pretty much taught or experienced by majority of Buddhists as a philosophy.
Yeah, that is where the problem actually comes. That is how you can call it as the revenge of Buddha, revenge against Buddha. That Buddha in his whole life wanted to get away from this philosophical ideas about whether the soul is there or God is there or this. No, just go by what you actually experience. They later on, because of the inbuilt philosophical instinct, people built so much philosophy on it. That is how it is a revenge. That is how it happens in history. Buddha did not go for any image worship. And now in the world, maximum number of images, they are of Buddha. It's the revenge of history. It is. He did not tell of any God, told people not to think of any God or such thing. He has been made God. So that is how it happens, you see.
Again, the philosophy and religion, that
Yeah.
philosophy and the religion rises.
Yeah. If you stick to the religion, then the philosophy is very simple. 4 noble truths and the 8-fold noble path, just follow that. That is the religion. Philosophy is only this much. No more is necessary. Yeah, correct. Thank you. So, next week will be, there will be the Sunday topic. What is it? It is on M. Where is the flyer for June? Here it is. June 14. No, this is June 2020. Oh. So, I was wondering what is this? Okay. June 13. M, who brought Sri Ramakrishna to us. That is the topic of discussion, and it will be followed by a concert. It is after again a year and a half or so, we will be having a live music concert by Phil Scarf, who is a wonderful saxophonist and plays the Indian melodies. He will be accompanied on that tabla, the double drum, by Nitin Mitta, another master in this field. So that will happen after the lecture and the arati. So a plan to come and to attend both of these. So, and then on Saturday, coming Saturday, there is going to be a spiritual retreat. Now you can't register for it because it is already overfull. So we had planned to take only 35, and 46 have registered already, so we stop registration. So it is this retreat also we are arranging after a year and a half. So no, it will not be live streamed. It is only in person. So it will not be live streamed. But maybe later on the recordings, audio recordings of that could be released. Audio recordings of the talks. So other Tuesday, Friday classes at 7:30 p.m. will go on as usual. Tuesdays the topic is Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. Friday the topic is stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, and daily morning and evening meditations, prayer sessions will be as usual. So you can take the benefit of all these. And now I come to the most relieving aspect of this service, closing prayer. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding, understanding, and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
light of all lights, blazing in the heart's name. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. De 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 langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of Vedanta. De 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 langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of Vedanta. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Hara Hara for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all-seeing Gauri. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ramakrishna Deva Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarada Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddha Deva Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki Jai.